here in the lobby of the Soraya with Marco Beltrami, who conceived Bach Beltrami, which will be performed here at the Soraya March 3rd. Marco, so glad you could be with us.
So excited to be here, and really looking forward to this.
Everybody has a kind of conception about Bach. Like if you took piano lessons, you maybe have one conception. If you hear Bach on the radio, you know, often we hear the most popular things of Bach, or we think about the Brandenburg concertos at the holiday time. But what is your relationship to Bach?
I started piano when I was about 6 years old, and the well-tempered clavier from which these preludes that we're showcasing come from that. And I wanted to explore them. You know, I would sometimes go off as a young student and start playing around with them, and I would always get reprimanded. No, you can't do that. That's sacrilegious. What are you doing? You know.
Bach he's the guy that every classical student, performer, you know, if you're in that world, like, you have to meet Bach. Especially for violin, cello, and piano, you know, like, we have the 6 sonatas and partitas, the violin concerti, the cellists, you know, they have their solo sonatas as well, and then, you know, the piano has the well-tempered clavier.
Well, it's so interesting with the well-tempered clavier, because Marco just said that his original copy, which is all dog-eared and worn out, is still with him, and was part of course, the inspiration, because he was thinking about this piece going all the way back to when he was a kid. And so you and Marco had Bach in common.
Yes.
There are 48 pieces in the well-tempered clavier. There's 24 preludes, 24 fugues, 12 in each major key and 12 in each minor key. How many pieces comprise Bach Beltrami?
I only did 12 pieces. I happened to pick one from each key just because I figured, keeping the tradition of Bach, who wrote these pieces basically to try out the equal temperament of the instrument.
You know, you can come from a background where you've studied these preludes over and over and over again for decades, and still find that these pieces by Marco bring to life a certain kind of imagery that maybe one hasn't thought of as a student or even as a professional.
So our audience knows Sandy Cameron because she was here a few years ago with Danny Elfman's violin concerto, and you were here that night and saw her perform. You knew Sandy was going to be part of the mix. Did you choose to have 2 violins, 1 vocalist, 1 cello, chamber ensemble, or is that something that evolved?
It evolved. I originally thought of it as pretty much a showcase for Sandy and also a cellist. And then after that, Sandy and me were talking about it and thinking, well, we could expand that a little bit and have other instruments be showcased as well. She introduced me to Lucia Micarelli, who is the second soloist on this. And after I heard her, I started writing for her as well. And then I thought it'd be great to have some, you know, the piano shouldn't just be a background instrument, it should also be showcased in it. And then I was thinking voice, so I got a little bit carried away. So there's actually 5 soloists in this now. Sandy's the main soloist, but there's also a second violin, there's a cello, there's a piano, and a vocalist.
It must be really great for you to work with so many composers who compose things with you in mind.
It feels incredibly special, and you know, it actually feels like a dream come true, because as someone who, like, went along the traditional, like, classical solo track as a student, you grow up hearing about these great violinists in the past who worked with these amazing composers, you know, that we worship now. Brahms had Joachim, and Shostakovich had David Oistrakh. To find myself today in this world where I can work with these incredibly creative and talented composers, and composers who are thinking outside the box, without forgetting, like, what it is to be human, like, that's just so, it's just so cool. I mean, I can't really imagine anything better, because it means that, you know, I get to be a part of the music itself.
You've composed countless film and TV scores, and particularly do a lot of action films, a little bit of sci-fi, thrillers, and one would think Bach and then the things that people know you for are kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum. Do you bring your film composing to this project, or is this like a release from or a real divergence from those works?
First of all, it's both of those. I mean, it is a nice release. It's not music for something, it's music for its own sake. The way that I developed these pieces wouldn't be possible without my experience as a film composer. There's a big audience for film scores. Music is music. And that's one thing that I've learned, going from the concert world to the film music world. Sharing those ideas and having a crossover between the stuff I think it's all revitalizing.
I won't say this about, like all film composers, but I think specifically with, the great ones, they have an understanding of humanity, like how people respond emotionally to something. I mean, because that is what they're doing, when they're writing a score for a film. Like sometimes it's fun to experiment with different ideas, but at the end of the day, for me, and I think for a lot of other people, music is supposed to apply somehow to what we feel as human beings, what we go through in everyday life.
The point of this is not to mutilate Bach. It's to pay homage to him, to pay gratitude. Like I view him as the source of where we are, understanding contemporary music today. It all stems from Bach. Come join me on March 3rd here at the Soraya for my project Bach by Beltrami, featuring Sandy Cameron on violin and Delirium Musicum and many other talented soloists and musicians. So I really hope to see you.